had a couple of guests fall through here, so this is an emergency mini episode of Old Movies for Young Stoners, the podcast where cannabis is a gateway drug to cult and classic cinema. Netflix has a Hitchcock collection going on right now, so we are going to talk about what happens when nature gets sick of our shit with The Birds from 1963. Yes, seagulls, crows, even finches are taking out all their frustrations with humanity on poor Tippi Hedren. Just one movie today, but it is epic. We've got black crows, counting crows, and a flock of seagulls when we come back on Old Movies for Young Stoners.
For young stoners. With Bob Calhoun, he is a loon. Old movies for young stoners. Am I gonna get higher and watch Billy Wilder? Yeah, yeah.
And we are back on this emergency mini episode of Old Movies for Young Stoners, the podcast where we pair cannabis strains with cult and classic films to enhance your trip through cinema history. Please like us, love us, rate us, review us, and most of all, subscribe to this goddamn podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, and wherever you cast your pods. It's just me, Bob Calhoun, and Cory Sklar on the pod today. Cory, how are you?
You know, Bob, the world is going through turmoil, but at least I could stick my head in the sand with marijuana and cinema to try to drown out the noise of World War III. So in that respect, I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay off the blue sky doom scrolling right now.
Which is funny because like blue sky compared to everything else is like a rainbow, but no, it's still doomy. So it's smart of you to do that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of the people of Bishop, California rising up against ICE when they came to town. There's that one stupid ICE contractor who tried to grab a guy but left his car, didn't put his SUV in park, so it rolled down the street and he had to go chasing after it. So I'm seeing those great moments and the Bishop of San Diego showing up and everybody running away from him. You know, so there's a lot of good things, but yeah, we're bombing Iran and, you know, I don't really want to talk about that too much. I don't think that's what people are listening to us for.
Let's get into it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
I have a much more important question for you, Bob.
Okay. Yeah.
And this question is concerning the world, and it's on theme for our episode today. Tell me, who are your favorite cartoon birds?
Ooh, cartoon birds, like, you know, like Tweety Bird or something, Heckle and Jekyll.
Heckle and Jekyll is a great example of cartoon birds. And also some of my favorite ones are the Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs bird.
Oh, yeah.
Yahoo! I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs!
And also Toucan Sam. I like cereal birds. I like that owl that takes a bite of a Tootsie Pop.
Oh, that's a great bird. Yeah.
And I like Tennessee Tuxedo, who used to come on after Underdog. He's a penguin. He's a penguin.
Penguins is practically chickens. There's that epic Bugs Bunny cartoon where he has to take the penguin back to the North Pole.
Did Don Adams, hold on. Did Don Adams do Tennessee Tuxedo's voice?
I believe so. Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
So I haven't really thought of Tennessee Tuxedo in a long time. I'm sure MeTV Tunes will spring that upon me.
There are lots of good birds in the Warner Brothers cartoon universe. You're right. Yeah. Tweety and Daffy.
Daffy, I mean, it's probably not the right answer in this kind of thing, but Daffy is, if I really think about it.
You think
Daffy,
he's the number one bird? No, ducks are birds, man. Ducks are birds.
He's definitely a great bird. And you could see the day the Earth blew up on Max now.
Oh, you can?
HBO
I'll
Max.
watch it tonight. Thank you. Shout out.
Because
it's HBO Max again.
You know, maybe things will start to get better.
We'll rename it HBO Max again. Prince will come back alive.
You know, if there's one thing we want to see right now is the world blowing up before it really blows up.
Yeah, exactly.
Let us enjoy the world blowing up before we have to experience it.
But if humanity is going to end, I'd rather have it with nature versus where we're taken out by nature, trees, animals, natural disasters, much like in the film we're going to talk about today, rather than bombs, you know?
Yeah. The birds need to step it up and get there. The crows are very intelligent, despite that woman talking about their brain pans. She's very wrong about their intelligence.
Have you seen... there's videos on YouTube of crows talking to people. They like learn the English and stuff. They're so smart. There's one crow that says "fuck you" to a guy. You got to see it. It's the greatest thing.
That's wonderful. You know, we so deserve it, crows.
It's like some cholo. He's like, "Hey man, what are you doing, fool?" And the crow goes, "Fuck you." And he's like, I taught him that. It's really good.
You know, there's the Superman movie coming up and the Fantastic Four movie coming up.
I'm excited.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm kind of like, I feel like I need to see the Fantastic Four movie and I kind of don't want to.
Yeah, that one's a chore, more of a chore for sure.
Yeah, Superman looks much better, but Pedro Pascal has spoken so much truth to power lately, supporting his trans sister Lux, calling, what does he call J.K. Rowling a heinous loser?
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn it, now I need to see this movie, because if it doesn't do well, they're going to blame it all on that, the way they did with, what was her name, Rachel Zegler, for tweeting Free Palestine, the woman who was in Snow White. They blamed-
Oh, yeah, her career's... Yeah, she got tried. Like the producer had to fly to her to yell at her, like, F you, dude. Javier Bardem has been really good in his recent publicity cycle he's on, too. He's been saying Free Palestine every chance he got. He said it on The View. Oh, boy. You should have seen Whoopi and Joy's faces when he said that.
Yesterday was Free Comedy Day in San Leandro, California.
Okay.
And they have a comedy show in the parking lot of the public library, the main library.
I love a library show in
and
a lot.
It's put on by longtime San Leandran Brian Copeland. He organizes this every year. And yesterday he invited Nato Green. Yeah, and Nato Green lectured all the boomers that were sitting in their folding chairs, their lawn chairs, about Marxism and anarchy. And he even said that Israel doesn't have a right to exist because no countries have a right to exist. So,
you know, he has a point. Good for Nato Green. Good for him. That's awesome.
He was going full anarchist the whole time, and he knew he was dying, but he was just plowing through it. So,
well, comedy is at a really fucked up spot right now. Like, sitting through a stand-up comedy set is just, it's awkward to do so when there's so much turmoil outside, you know what I mean? And it's a guy talking about online dating or trying to make the ICE protests about how he's trying to hook up there or something. It's just awkward. So might as well just like burn it all down. So good for NATO.
Yeah, good for NATO.
Yeah.
You know, Brian Copeland had to know, you know, he knew who he was booking on this thing. So yeah, it's funny, but like all these kind of scowly boomers that, you know, I mean, those same boomers were out there for No Kings like a week before. Good for Nato Green. I was just like, oh man, because I've never really seen him do a comedy set. I've seen him do like, I've seen him do Litquake things. Like he's doing his stand-up stuff. But I mean, he's always talking about Marxism and union organizing and you know, he's talking politics seriously. He's very political comic. So I've seen him in literary events more than I haven't really seen him at the Punchline or something like that.
Good for San Leandro Free Comedy Day for getting good booking. I really was inspired to see our No Kings out here in Northwest Arkansas. It was pretty cool. And like, I saw how that kind of movement can move the needle for people in their 60s and 70s. I watched it here, you know, so I saw thousands and thousands of people show up, and a lot of those people were people who were alive during World War II and Vietnam War, you know, and they got out of their seats and they got outside, and it was like, oh my God, it's like actually a kind of a movement out here and getting people motivated. So that was, this is just to poo-poo all of those people who say, what are you really doing? Did you guys do anything? Like, I watched it. It did something. You know what I mean? It was good.
Yeah, and I will say this about the boomers is they get a lot of shit, especially in online.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been to protests for the Iraq War in 2003, and the boomers always show up.
Yeah.
And older Jewish socialist types, those people always show up, and they're getting older and older, but it's like, we wouldn't have anybody at these things without them. Now, come on, kids, where are you? There's some kids, but yeah.
People my age don't show up, like Gen Y, like people who are into like buying records and goth and punk people. They just they're happy at their home with their tech jobs and their Funko Pops and their Blu-rays, and their heads are in the sand. It's my generation's fault no one's showing up.
Hey, we aren't out there enough either. And hey, look, I don't have Funko Pops because I think they're fucking hideous.
I have lots of records that
I have lots of records and Blu-rays, and we do this podcast, and but you take some time out of it, because you know what? If you stand up for a few hours, march around, you'll be tired, and you'll come home and you want to smoke pot and watch movies.
Yeah, that's right. Tubi is there for you when you go home. Tubi is there for you after the protest.
Tubi and Doobie, or Netflix and
if you search protest on Tubi, you'll see a lot of cool like Mondo movies from the 60s. Okay. So,
yeah, it's cool. It's with it. It's hip, man. It's hip.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to see Fantastic Four, because we don't want Pedro Pascal to be Rachel Zeglered, because it's like, oh, he stood up for trans people, so that's why that movie flopped. It wasn't because it sucked. It's because of him.
Have you seen anything in the theater lately, Bob?
I've only seen kind of odd things.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I saw a movie for DocFest, San Francisco DocFest, called Zodiac Project.
Ooh.
And I mean, it was like, I gotta hand it to Chris at DocFest. He gave me tickets, and let me see.
Well, this is a subject up your alley.
Basically, this director, Charlie Shackleton, he is English.
I'm Charlie Shackleton, and I'm the director of Zodiac Killer Project. It's a film about my failed attempt to make a true crime documentary about the Zodiac Killer, which means in practice, it's basically me just sort of describing that film beat by beat as it would have been if I'd got to make it.
He was going to option a book, and it's when you follow this stuff, there are so many books. So many goddamn books where it's like, my neighbor was the Zodiac Killer, my brother, my father, my sister, my brother, it's there's just hundreds of these books. So he's going to option this one by this California Highway Patrol guy who said that a fellow officer was the Zodiac Killer. And he had the deal all set to go, and then the family, for whatever reason, pulled out last minute. So he makes this kind of angry Zodiac Killer documentary about his process of this, where he pretty much poisons the well or shits on the table for this family, because he divulges as much as he can, because the guy, when he was alive, gave interviews about his theories. So there were other sources he could cite with fair use there. And so it's him like kind of going through the guy's theories, but also he takes apart the true crime genre. Yeah. At the same time, like he has these split screens showing like the credits to the Jinx or the credits to the Golden State Killer documentary that was on HBO, and like, oh, here's the part where the crows flutter away from the rooftop, and it's like, because it's like they all have the same thing, and he talks about the
Netflix thing is definitely a format now. It's definitely a template that they follow. And stuff,
and it ends with almost a trailer for the show you're already watching with all these sound bites, and it's so true. And it goes back to City Confidential on A&E. That was like, if I think about it, that was that show, and you can find old episodes of it on Tubi from like the late 90s, was the template for current true crime. I mean, we never thought anything like this would happen in a town like this. That whole thing where, crazy, heinous shit happens everywhere all the time. Everybody. Yeah. But it was very good, very interesting.
What do you think there's anything to the theory? To the person's See, the Zodiac is so great because everyone thinks they know who the Zodiac killer is. Everyone's like, oh, it was my dad. Oh, it was my neighbor. Oh, it was my partner. It's like the Patterson Bigfoot film where everyone's like, oh, no, that was my dad in a Bigfoot suit. Everyone thinks that their dad was the Patterson Bigfoot.
And probably the Zodiac killer, your dad, the Zodiac killer, was in the Patterson Bigfoot suit.
And everyone also thinks that their dad killed the Black Dahlia too. It's like, oh, my dad, yeah.
And then jumped out of a plane and
jumped out of the plane, yes.
Called himself T.B. Cooper. Yeah. No, I'm always look askance at anybody who their main suspect is because he looked like that police sketch. And the reason is like, it's a skinny white dude with horn-rimmed glasses. How many guys looked like that in the mid 60s?
Yeah. Yeah.
It just kind of, but I have a friend from high school who's told me that her dad was the Zodiac killer.
See? But you've done extensive research on this. What's your theory?
The Arthur Lee Allen thing is hard to refute, but I don't like how Graysmith cooked the books for him, because Graysmith won't let facts get in the way of his theories, and he'll kind of, paper over things. Or I think it would be better if I could trust the information sources on it without Graysmith stretching the facts to fit. Yeah. So there's a corruption of that theory that I don't like in it. There was another guy, I think his name was Lawrence Kane. He's kind of a forgotten Zodiac suspect, but he's close. He's interesting. He deserves a second look, I think.
Well, it's just it's incredible that it's still not solved all these years later.
Yeah,
and people are still making specials and movies about it. Like, wow, it's still a big part of culture. The Murders That Made Us by Bob Calhoun.
Yeah,
available now at bookstore. Find bookstores near you.
Bob, why are you doing this podcast about pot and movies instead of more true crime? Because true crime is depressing.
And it does. Bob did a lot of research and he needs a break for a couple years. Okay. Then he'll get back.
Yeah.
You got to read this book, Bob. I'm not joking. This is the best book I read in a long time. Cold Glitter: The Untold Story of Canadian Glam. There's a lot of Thor. There's a lot of Thor and Frank Soda in this book. It's by my friend Robert Dayton. It's on Feral House. It's amazing. It's so fun.
Feral House.
Yeah. What Hitchcock movies are a part of this Netflix collection right now?
Okay, it's 6 movies. So we've got Rear Window, Vertigo, Frenzy, which is Hitchcock's only R-rated movie, and it's pretty brutal.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I mean, Frenzy, and it's got Family Plot, his last film with Bruce Dern, which isn't bad. Karen Black's in it. It's okay. I mean, it's not. Frenzy and Family Plot aren't masterpieces, but they're definitely worth watching, and they are definitely, well, maybe Frenzy has some brutal rapes. It's about a serial killer, a necktie murderer, and he kills people with neckties. But it's basically, there's this rating system and I could get an R rating. So it's Hitchcock doing all the heinous shit that he ever kind of wanted to do and couldn't before. But the Sleeper, I'm going to say the Sleeper is part of this. It's 6 films. The Sleeper is the 50s Man Who Knew Too Much with Doris Day and Jimmy Stewart.
That's the one. Okay.
Well, I mean, is it as good as Rear Window or Vertigo? No, it's not, but it's almost as good as Rear Window and Vertigo. It's totally from that 50s postcard Alfred Hitchcock look that The Bird still has, and that Rear Window and Vertigo and North by Northwest have. It's from that height of Hitchcock. It just doesn't quite get to the level of the other top films there, but it's totally good. And I think people could totally skip over it and go past it because it isn't those movies, and it doesn't have the kind of later career interest that the other movies do. The other thing they have is the Hitchcock biopic from, I believe, 2005 about
Brian
the making
De Palma
of Psycho.
one? The biopic one. Oh, okay, yeah.
It's got Anthony Hopkins in a fat suit as Hitchcock.
Oh God, that one. Yeah.
And it's got Scarlett Johansson. ScarJo is Janet Leigh. It's kind of funny because since it's about the making of Psycho, it has all this kind of Beautiful Mind type stuff where Alfred Hitchcock talks to the serial killer Ed Gein that Psycho was loosely inspired by.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has Ralph Macchio as Joe Stefano, who wrote the script to Psycho, and and also produced The Outer Limits, the wonderful 60s TV
Daniel
show.
LaRusso himself.
Yeah, he's only in it for like a second, but it's like it takes you a second to go, oh shit, that's fucking Danny LaRusso.
The guy that he beat Satan in a guitar battle one time.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
did you? I felt really bad because after seeing Sinners, I'm like, I kind of want to watch Crossroads
yeah.
with Ralph Macchio, and I didn't really want to post about that on Blue
Sinners
Sky.
would be better if Steve Vai was in it. Let's be
Oh,
real.
Steve Vai is so good for the few minutes he's in Crossroads. I mean, okay, Crossroads, it is the Karate Kid, but with the blues, everybody. And it is on Tubi right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Ralph Macchio needs to learn the blues from an old black blues man, but it has the devil in it because the guy sold his soul to the devil. So
Robert
Ralph
Johnson went down to the crossroads and sold his soul to the devil.
Yeah,
people, it's a
yeah.
fact. It happened. It's documented.
Yeah, and this guy is like Robert Johnson's harmonica player who also sold his soul. So Ralph Macchio has to battle Steve Vai for this man's soul.
It's the devil's guitar player, much like in the Charlie Daniels song. It's not fiddle, it's guitar.
Yeah, and it's directed by Walter Hill after he did Streets of Fire.
The
There's some
legend.
kind of Streets of Fire moments in it. I mean, it's okay. It's definitely worth watching.
I loved it when I was a kid. It was on HBO every day when I was a kid, and I watched it every day. And it's not the Crossroads starring Britney Spears, everyone. They're two different
No, they're two different movies. What if they crossed them up? What if AI melded them together by accident?
We could do that right now in Google VO, I'm sure. Bob, one question real quick for
we get into the birds.
For myself and the rest of the listeners. The early Hitchcock is really like kind of hard to jump into. Is there one early Hitchcock that you could recommend?
Okay,
Like the British movies, right?
The British movies. You know what? Okay, there was a time when I was admitted into the hospital. And thank God, Kaiser San Leandro has TCM. So I just had the TV on TCM all the time, drifting in and out of sleep on a morphine drip. I was in severe pain, so I wasn't enjoying the morphine drip like as much as I could have.
Oh man,
I kind of fell asleep, and it must have been a Sunday night because it was the silent time. You know, it was the silent movie show that they do. Mm-hmm. And I woke up and, the nurses have to keep checking your blood and they keep sticking you for blood tests and checking your blood pressure and checking this and that. And The Lodger was on Hitchcock's.
Oh, yes.
I think, was it 1927? Please don't quote me on this, silent movie fans. But that was on. I fell asleep and woke up with this nurse in the room. She was an Indian woman. And I swear to God, the look on her face at this movie on this tiny TV kind of hovering over my bed was like she had seen a window to hell. She was like afraid of this fucking movie. And she's like, what's this? And I'm like, I'm still like, even where I'm at. And I'm still like, I almost died. Everybody, not to go into it too much, but I'm still Bob movie fan, and I'm like, oh, that's Alfred Hitchcock's The Lodger. It's his 1927 film about, droning on.
Those are almost your last words.
Yeah, droning on about movie facts, and she is like, I would not want to watch this if I were in your situation. Why are you, she kind of left like she almost knocked shit over on her way out. Like this thing, whatever this was for that few minutes, like so disturbed this poor woman who was just doing her job and trying to help me. So I would, The Lodger is as good a place as any to start.
Thank you. That's
silent.
Excellent. I will jump in with The Lodger. Thank you. I've always wanted to. And David Bowie named an album after it, so it can't be that bad.
I do want to do a couple of shout outs.
Let's do it.
We were going to have David Zirin, a sports writer for The Nation, on, and he couldn't do it. And we're going to have Michael Lucas of the Phantom Surfers on, and he couldn't do it. And the reason they couldn't do it is because they are dads, and recording on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon is just out for them because they're good dads. So we hope to reschedule with them. But hey, thanks guys for being good dads. Because by being good dads, your kids won't grow up to be president someday and bomb other countries because of a deep, deep emptiness inside. So thanks for being good dads.
You're raising the future people that will smoke pot and watch movies. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for that. I also want to say, for some reason, in the last couple of days, we've got 56 plays in Aliso Viejo. So thank you, whoever it is in Aliso Viejo who's listening to, I don't know, the same episode over and over again, or maybe a bunch of you are listening to a bunch of different episodes. So thank you, Aliso Viejo. And I do want to also praise the people of Oregon, because Portland, Oregon, when you look at our stats of all time, Portland has more listens for old movies for young stoners.
Who's listening in Portland? Email us. Hit me up. I want to come visit you.
But all of Oregon. I mean,
all of Oregon.
Salem, Bend, lots of plays in Salem and Bend, and Eugene and Beaverton.
Oh, cool. I want to come sing karaoke in Oregon, everybody. So
yeah, if we were going
us.
to do screen like a old movies for young stoners event in some video store basement, I mean, Oregon is the place to do it, especially Portland, because there are more plays in Portland for us than there are in San Francisco or LA, which are number 2 and number 3. So
old movies for young stoners coming soon live to Clinton Street Cinema very soon. I think that's what it's called.
Whatever it is, we'll be there. And thank you, Portland. Thank you, Oregon. Thank you, Pacific Northwest in general.
Yeah.
You guys show up, and also thanks to Aliso Viejo. Like, what's in Aliso Viejo? Corey?
Why are you asking me? I have no idea. Where is it?
Isn't it like one of these golf communities down there, down like in LA County or the LA megalopolis?
That makes sense. That sounds like it. I don't know. I've never been there consciously. I'm sorry. I must tell you.
Okay, let's see. We got to look it up now.
Yeah, tell me the demographic,
it's
the population.
It's a city in the San Joaquin Hills of Southern Orange County. That's why you don't know it. It's the Orange Curtain.
It's beyond the Orange Curtain. Yeah, it's not
behind
my
it.
scene,
Yeah. 52,
it's on the way to San Diego though, so I've probably driven through.
52,000 people as of the 2020 census.
That shit is red down there, by the way, Bob. You know
it is bordered by Laguna Beach and Laguna Hills.
Oh God, okay, that is MAGA city over there.
Well, they're enjoying the podcast. They might not be listening to it anymore, but maybe their kids are listening to it.
Yeah,
and going, "Fuck you, Dad! I'm listening to old movies for young stoners."
If you're listening to Aliso Viejo, or whatever it's called, if you're listening from there, thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. Thank you, and also have a great pageant of the Masters this year. That's their big event they do.
Okay, yeah. See, but 56 plays just in the last couple of days. That's a lot of plays.
Okay, I'm sorry Portland. I said anything, but thank you guys. I really appreciate you listening.
How do you do? My name is Alfred Hitchcock, and I would like to tell you about my forthcoming lecture. It is about the birds and their age-long relationship with man. It will be seen in theaters like this across the country. In my lecture, I hope to make you all aware of our good friends, the birds. Theirs is a noble history, and through it all, man has played a conspicuous part. The story of man and his friends, the birds, is filled with many fine examples of ways in which these noble creatures have added to the beauty of the world. Take this plumed hat from the period of Charles I. How proud the birds must have been to have their feathers plucked out to brighten man's drab life. Here we have a later model, a refinement of the first. Here man, or rather woman, thought enough of the birds to have an entire one as a decoration. It's quite dead, of course. Most peculiar. What on earth?
They're coming! They're coming!
In the early morning hours of August 18th, 1961, people in Capitola and Pleasure Point near Santa Cruz were awakened by a rain of birds slamming against their homes. Dead and stunned seabirds littered the streets and roads in the foggy early dawn, according to the Santa Cruz Sentinel. Startled by the invasion, residents rushed out on their lawns with flashlights, then rushed back inside as the birds flew towards their light. At the time, Alfred Hitchcock was already in pre-production on his follow-up to the smash hit shocker Psycho. And by coincidence, or maybe it was kismet, his new epic was to be based on a Daphne du Maurier novella about an English coastal town that is attacked by birds. With life imitating art before the work was even finished, Hitchcock and screenwriter Evan Hunter set their film on the California coast but chose northern Bodega Bay over Santa Cruz. Starring Rod Taylor from The Time Machine as the square-jawed hero, Jessica Tandy as his somewhat domineering mother, Veronica Cartwright of Alien as one of the schoolgirls who is pursued by a murderous murder of crows, and introducing Tippi Hedren as the woman who comes to town and seems to bring the angry birds with her. With a groundbreaking electronic score designed by German composers and inventors Oscar Sala and Remy Gazman. From Universal, the Monster Studio, comes Hitchcock's most monstrous movie, The Birds. So, Cory, was this your first time seeing The Birds, or what's your history with The Birds?
When I got into movies when I was a kid, I really liked Psycho a lot, and Vertigo was hard for me to wrap my head around for a long time. Still is, kind of. And Rear Window, love. But no, I love The Birds, and I saw The Birds then, and it was always just played as kind of just like a regular, because it's so it's like cinema perfection in a lot of ways, like the way it looks and the way it's acted and the way it's edited and the way the music is. It's just kind of like, and it's such a part of culture, it just kind of just like washed over me like wallpaper. But I recognize it as a classic. I've been to every year. Tippi Hedren goes to Bodega Bay to raise money for the big cats and do a birds thing. So there's me and my wife with Tippi Hedren right there. See, in Bodega Bay, we went to it. And
wow, you should send me that picture.
I'll send you that picture. And I talked to her about Roar, and she really was excited to talk to someone about Roar.
Tell us about Roar for a second.
Roar is it's a narrative picture that Tippi Hedren made with her then husband, his name escapes me right now, and her daughter Melanie Griffith, and like her whole crew, because she was really into rescuing big cats in the after she got successful in the movie industry. She used a lot of her money to rescue big cats, tigers and lions, and she lived with a ton of them. And she made this dramatic narrative piece about it with her own money in the 70s. And Melanie Griffith a lot of people got slaughtered on set by the big cats. I think like a couple people might have died, and Melanie Griffith, her whole face got ripped off, and she had to get plastic reconstructive surgery when she was a teenager. And you could even see some of her scars to this day from it. And so, yeah, Roar is really wild. It's a wild movie. And I saw it in the Roxy Theater, actually, in the Mission, when they re-released it. People were like, whoa! It was like a roller coaster ride, kind of a reaction from the crowd. It's a wild movie. So I was excited to talk to her about that movie. And she loved to talk about it. And, but she was there for the birds. Like, that's her thing. She gets it. And so I'm well acquainted with The Birds, but I haven't seen it in like 15 years. So this was my first time watching it again. What struck me this time was the visuals. It is so striking visually. It is so beautiful and such a wonderful movie to look at. However, was I that scared by The Birds this time? No, I wasn't that scared by The Birds this time. But now that I'm older and I watch cinema differently, and I was stoned, I was able to catch themes and, metaphors that I might have not caught before. So I really enjoyed it this time.
It's funny. It's like with Vertigo, the older I get, the more parts of The Birds disturb me. Whereas a kid, like, I don't think I was, there's that scene where the birds start pecking through the door, and that always got to me.
There's the horror, the jump scare shots, right? The horror shots, of the birds going through the door, the classic. If we just jump right into it, I mean, we don't have to talk about the plot that much, right? No, we can't.
We'll talk about it a little. Okay. I mean, Tippi Hedren meets Rod Taylor in the beginning at a pet store that's at Union Square for the purposes of this picture in San Francisco, and for whatever reason, she's kind of a crazy, she's kind of a manic pixie dream girl a little bit. She decides to drive up to Bodega Bay after him
to play a prank on him.
Yeah.
I never really when you're a kid and you're watching it as a horror movie, you don't get to think about character you don't think about character that much, but it hit me differently that, oh, she's a bored socialite with nothing else to do but play this elaborate prank, and she keeps leaning into it so hard. And what a bizarre choice for a human, right? Don't you think? It's like an interesting character in that way, and she plays it really well.
And Rod Taylor, he's the square-jawed hero guy in this movie, but
also really arrogant. He's like an arrogant.
He's a defense attorney
at first. Yeah.
Yeah, he nags her a little bit,
Mm-hmm. But little do you know, he's a mama's boy, and then there's that whole relationship too, which is like I never really looked at in a
with Jessica Tandy as his domineering mother. It's a very Hitchcock thing that square-jawed heroes very seldomly get to be what they are in other movies, and I think there was even some conflict with Rod Taylor and Hitchcock a little bit, as much as Rod Taylor could have conflict with Hitchcock. It was permitted because Rod Taylor wanted to play it more the way he plays things in The Time Machine, where he gets to be this kind of, uncomplicated kind of, good guy. And Hitchcock politely, or maybe not so politely, shot some of those suggestions down. Like he still gets to do heroic things in it, but not.
Yeah, he's the hero in the movie. But here's what I was going to say. And so she follows him to play this prank on him with these birds. Birds are symbolizing a ton of stuff in this movie. But once she gets to Bodega Bay, you learn a little bit about the characters. You meet his ex, played by Suzanne Plachette, who is amazing. But
in so many ways.
Yeah. The birds of Bodega Bay start attacking people, and it becomes a Night of the Living Dead situation. You get to see the dynamics of people while there's this insane event going on outside that is sure to kill them somehow.
Yeah, I think as a kid, if you asked me what movie I thought was better, like let's say I'm 10 years old or 12 years old or something, I probably would have said I liked Frogs better than the Birds because, Frogs and Tarantula or all these other, nature on the loose movies, Kingdom of the Spiders, don't have nearly so much character development. They don't have these kind of psychosexual themes going on in them. The Birds, for you young stoners out there, it is a little more deliberately paced. It is a slow burn, and I'll get to that in my weed recommendation. But there are definite moments of tension, and there is this amazing shot. Hitchcock called it the God view, when there's this incredible sequence in the last half of the film where the birds start attacking people kind of in the town square of, well, not really Bodega Bay, but kind of the fictional Bodega Bay of this movie. And there's a scene where, these birds start kind of attacking people. This guy gets out of his car and there's all this, gas pump, like this gasoline is just pumping and like there's gasoline running all over the pavement. And he gets out and he's got a cigarette and everybody's shouting at him from the restaurant to put out the match. And he doesn't really hear them. He drops the match and, burns up. And so there's this fire in the middle of town. And then there's that God shot of the seagulls flying down on it.
Yeah.
And that was like a tremendous achievement in special effects at the time.
Yeah, it still looks great. Nothing in this movie looks cheesy, even though there's a lot of matte painting stuff, and
it is obvious at times.
Obvious, yeah. It looks good though.
I mean, the first time I went to Bodega Bay as a kid, and like my dad,
did you know it was you were going there as the Birds place?
And I had seen at least parts of the Birds on TV. I was familiar with the Birds, and I remember like even now it's very, very sparse compared to what you see in the movie because like there's a lot of matte paintings making that and sometimes they're undetectable. Like watching the making of the Birds on the Blu-ray I checked out from the San Lorenzo Library. Made me realize how much more Albert Whitlock matte painting is in this movie than you think.
Mm-hmm.
So I was expecting something that looked like the town in the movie. And there are definitely Bodega Bay and Bodega, California locations. And the schoolhouse is in Bodega Bay. That's the schoolhouse sequence. That's there. But I was like, there's nothing here. And I was expecting
we went to like a hotel and stayed the night, and it was like, okay, there's nothing else to do. Let's go home.
I'm going to get some clam chowder at the Tides.
After you meet Tippi, there's like nothing. Yeah, you get some clam chowder.
You met Tippi there. I was on the TCM cruise with her in 2011.
Nice. Delightful woman.
She showed the birds. I didn't talk to her about Roar, though, because I don't think I knew about it. Now, the funny thing is Hitchcock had a kind of creepy relationship with Tippi.
Yes.
She had been a model. She was 31. So she had a modeling career, but it's winding down because she is not 21 anymore. And still stunning beauty. She's still a stunning beauty. So Hitchcock signs her to this 7-year contract. And what Hitchcock is looking for is he's had, Grace Kelly, marries the King of Monaco. And, so Grace Kelly isn't his blonde. And
Janet Leigh was moved on.
Well, Janet Leigh, I don't think. Janet Leigh was already a pretty big star, and she was married to Tony Curtis. I mean, he could have put Janet Leigh in The Birds, and it might have even been a little better. I mean, Janet Leigh is a better actress than I think Tippi was at that time. But Ingrid Bergman, she had that affair with Roberto Rossellini. And, people in the 40s and 50s were like, oh, she's a harlot. She basically got the Scarlet Letter and had to go to Europe for a while before she could make her movie come back here, because everybody's real judgy about her leaving her husband and her kid from that marriage. Everybody was just really, really, the 50s were about to start. So he had all these women because they're women and they're the most beautiful women in the world and they have their own lives, Alfred. So he's trying to find somebody he can control. So he plucks her out of relative obscurity, gives her the 7-year contract. And he did try to kiss her. He did try to get, we might call it sexual assault now. She does say that it wasn't always terrible with him, but there were terrible moments. And she did, after Marnie told him to get lost. But what's funny is there's that scene where she goes into the room where there's all these birds. They break through the roof and they attack her, and they filmed for several days, and stagehands and bird wranglers are just throwing birds at her. And she had to go to the hospital afterwards. She finally tapped out and said enough after she's been bitten by seagulls for the 800th time. But what's funny to me about Roar is that she makes this movie Roar, and then all these people get mauled by big cats. It's she kind of like, okay, I'm in the driver's seat now, and you fuckers are all gonna have to fucking be eaten by animals.
Yeah, if I have to be eaten by birds, you're gonna be
I did my fucking time. Yeah.
Her face was cut during the phone booth scene as well.
Yeah, from a mechanical bird crashing into the glass. I mean, I think it, works on film, but, Tippi shouldn't have had to experience that. There's a certain kind of sadism in the movie, although there's a kind of gentler sadism, because in the scene where the crows are attacking the school children and they run, they're running. Like, some of that is filmed by the schoolhouse in Bodega Bay, but then there's all these kind of matte paintings and rear projection where they had the kids back at Universal Studios running on a treadmill, and Hitchcock liked to speed up the treadmill because once one kid fell, once poor Veronica Cartwright fell, it would be a domino effect and all the kids would fall. And he liked Veronica Cartwright a lot. He taught her how to make steaks and things, and just really thought she was a great actress, great talent. And but some of the other kids he didn't like so much and didn't like their show.
There's a lot of bad kid acting in this movie. Let's be real.
Yeah. Well, this movie, what's funny about this movie is there's a lot of things that it is the ground zero for a lot of things that are modern horror things that weren't really in horror movies then, that aren't in Hammer or Universal horror movies or 50s giant bug movies. Yeah. There's some of the inconsistencies, why does Tippi go into that room? How many horror movies do we watch where somebody goes into a room we know they shouldn't go into? And The Birds is kind of the first time that sort of thing happens in a movie. There's also all the scenes of them having to be quiet. The birds are there, but if they make any noise, the birds are going to attack them. And you see that played out in Jurassic
like
Park.
A Quiet Place. Yeah.
Jurassic Park. There's so many movies that play on that. And that's really the first time I think that happens.
To get a little more conceptual with it, I see a lot of slasher parallels with the birds and later slasher movies, and came the Michael Myers and the Friday the 13th and stuff. The birds are like the slasher monster in a lot of ways. And my theory of why the birds do what they do, and they never gets explained in the movie, but it's hinted at, is kind of like a Jason thing. Is like he's punishing them for wanting sex, like Jason kills the teens for. I think the birds are killing the people because Tippi and Rod are they have too much sexual tension, so it's triggering the birds, making them crazy.
That's definitely it's a
piece of it, right?
There.
Don't you think it's a piece of it? Yeah,
that's definitely back there. Yeah, but it's just kind of fascinating, and also special effects wise, I mean, there are people who will say that Alfred Hitchcock making The Birds was a big leap forward for special effects from the 50s sci-fi special effects.
Absolutely.
That they had to do so much that you don't get to 2001 in Star Wars without Alfred Hitchcock making The Birds.
How did they wrangle the birds? How did they make the birds do what they wanted to do, Bob?
Well, they had 2 bird wranglers.
Okay.
They definitely had 2 bird wranglers, and but they were like, they had never had to handle this many birds. Now, some of the crows and ravens were trained because they're very intelligent animals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of the problem is that they had to train all these gulls and crows to attack people, to swoop down on people. So I'm not sure if they had to euthanize them or not, which is kind of grim. But there was a bird called Buddy that hung out with Tippi that almost was unusable in the film because he was too nice, and he hung out with Tippi in her dressing room.
Cute.
He's kind of her only friend on the set because Hitchcock was so kind of domineering over her. And there was another bird, I forget his name, maybe it was Alfie. Another crow or raven that kept attacking Rod Taylor. Like he would have to ask, is that bird on the set? Because it would just find him. And he goes, even when it was supposed to be back in its cage, it would get out and it'd swoop down on him and attack him during takes and start nipping at his hands. And, but they also did tether it to like the banister outside of their house onto the porch, because when he puts his hand down, they knew this bird would always, the bird starts biting his hands and stuff. They knew that bird would always attack him. So, I mean, it's just a tremendous amount. And like that last composite shot of all the birds, like Bodega Bay is just,
that's what I'm like, how did they do? I'm still,
that's 30 pieces of film.
It is.
They
you watch that and
all these birds.
It looks incredible still to this.
Yeah, it's 30 pieces of film, and there was supposed to be a sequence after that where they're driving away and the birds start attacking the car, and the car gets away. It was supposed to be more of an ending, but Hitchcock tapped out. He just like the filming of those scenes with all these composite shots with the Albert Whitlock mats, and then just filming birds and matting them in, took so much. And it was kind of like, today it would be so much easier, but back then, like, nobody had ever done anything like this before.
It's worth it. The effects are incredible, but I can imagine, but it's the simpler ending is I'm glad there isn't another jump scare at the end. I'm glad it's quiet and you get to contemplate everything you just watched. It's very, very good. Maybe one of my favorite Hitchcock endings for sure.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it really, the other ending would have been just more action. There would have been suspense, but it still would have ended in the same place.
Yeah.
Although they did talk about a composite shot of the birds like that on the Golden Gate Bridge. Oh. Like there would just be the Golden Gate Bridge would be filled with birds. And
that's a good, it's ambitious. I still like the way it ends. And for San Francisco people, the early shots in this movie of Union Square are very cool. You got to see it for that at least.
Yeah. You get to see Alfred Hitchcock coming out of a storefront with 2 dogs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's kind of one of the more obvious Hitchcock appearances in his movies. Rosie and I watched Family Plot before this taping, and he's just a shadow on the back wall in a scene. So sometimes he's more in it than others, but that's his very last film. That's also part of the Netflix thing, and it's not bad. I'm not going to say it's a classic, but it was entertaining. Bruce Dern, but The Birds. What did you think about the electronic score? Because there's no actual music in this movie.
I love it. I love the lack of music in this movie. It's so unsettling. I think one of the best scenes in the history of movies is in this movie, and that's the cigarette smoking scene on the bench with Tippi Hedren. And its lack of music is killer, and its use of sound. And so I really like this. I would love to know more about why Hitchcock decided to not use Bernard Herrmann and go with this experimental approach to the movies. It seemed just so atypical of the time and of him, you know? He was so into violins and stuff.
Yeah, he had known about these guys, and let me find their names again. Oscar Sala, he knew about this device he made that had these bird calls. And so it's a forerunner of synthesizers. It's an electronic, it's an electronic bird noise generator that this guy had made like back in the 20s, and Hitchcock had been aware of it since then. And so when he's making the birds, he decided to call on him and his understudy and to do an electronic bird soundtrack. Now, Bernard Herrmann was still involved with it. That Bernard Herrmann flew out to Germany with Hitchcock to talk to these guys and scout it out. And Bernard Herrmann said it was actually the most enjoyable work he did with Hitchcock. That he had the best time with Hitchcock working on this movie. And Bernard Herrmann still has a kind of like music editing or music direction.
He's a consultant.
Yeah, he's telling them how he is still involved in how to place the bird sounds.
I love it.
To accentuate the drama. They don't know.
How do you feel about this score?
I do sometimes watch this movie and wonder what it would be like with a more traditional Psycho, North by Northwest Bernard Herrmann score. But I mean, it does the kind of sparseness creates its own mood.
Yeah,
that there aren't these violins or aren't these big horns and the da da da.
And that it plays into the slow burn of the movie. Too. Yeah.
But the sounds are, they are very realistic, but yet also not realistic. They're almost in an aural, uncanny valley, if you will.
Yeah,
that adds to the tension. So I think it all works, and I mean we have plenty of, Bernard Herrmann was back in for Marnie, to do the score for Marnie with Tippi Hedren a year later with Sean Connery. So I think that is their last film together. John Williams did the score for Family Plot like a year before he did the score for Star Wars. So that's kind of interesting. I always say, like, there's John Williams, and then earlier on when he was doing more jazzy scores, he went by Johnny Williams.
I love that.
And I always think that it's kind of like a Nutty Professor with Jerry Lewis thing where he takes a potion. John, kind of stayed John Williams, conductor of the Boston.
Isn't his son the current singer for Toto?
Is he?
Yeah, and he also is the singer for Gummy Bears. That's John Williams' son.
Well, Nepo baby.
He's good though. You have to be good if you're going to be in Toto. Come on.
Oh God, yeah. Well, the guys in Toto played on every fucking Steely Dan record and Michael Jackson's Thriller, and
that's right.
Yeah, probably some Stevie Wonder records. We dissed Toto at our own expense. Steve Lukather forever, man.
Yeah, that hair.
Yeah,
and those fingers.
They just played, and I'm like, why didn't I go see Toto?
I know. Let's always go see Toto when they play.
Yeah,
guys.
I mean, we could deal with the rains in Africa and all that,
And go visit Tippi when she's raising money for the big cats in Bodega Bay. It's a fun event, everybody.
Yeah, I never have seen her do that. And but yeah, the big cats and animal conservation. Sorry, Hitchcock creeped on you, Tippi. And
yeah, it sucks.
It sucks, but I mean, she's scratching and surviving, and she's tormenting other people with animals the way she was.
And also, her granddaughter Dakota Johnson is tormenting us with her bad movies. So,
God, such terrible films. Speaking of Nepo babies, the John Williams kid that's singing for Toto is living the best life. Okay, he's doing Nepo babiness right. If you're going to be a Nepo baby, sing for Toto. Don't be in Madam Web or whatever the fuck that was.
I mean, the thing about Dakota Johnson, look, I more power to her. It's just she doesn't seem like she wants to be in any of the movies she's in.
She should have been a terrible corporate lawyer or whatever it was.
She does not want to be there. Yeah, it's just like, I have to do this movie with Pedro Pascal, I guess. Gee.
Yeah, well, not everybody has.
I'm tired of him too. Just kidding. We're fans. Well, we stand for you, Pedro.
He's in everything right now.
We have fatigue a little bit.
And he's going to make me have to see the Fantastic Four, which, look, guys, everybody, Fantastic Four is my favorite comic book of all time, especially the first 105 issues by Jack Kirby. And, but even like maybe even the first 200 issues or through the John Byrne run. Fantastic Four, Ben Grimm is my guy.
High praise.
But I've long since decided that I don't need a Hollywood movie to validate my love of the FF. Like, I have those comics, they're in my garage, I can pull them out anytime. I look forward to retiring and just reading those goddamn things all over again. I don't need Pedro Pascal or Roger Corman or anybody to make a Fantastic Four movie for me. Comic book fans, stop needing your love of comic books to be validated by Hollywood films. Just enjoy the fucking comic books. Enjoy the books you like. If there's a good movie, fine. If there isn't, it's no big deal. Just get over.
I feel the same way about the Thunderbolts. You won't meet a bigger Thunderbolts fan than just kidding. I don't know who they are. I guess they're the new Avengers, I guess.
I saw that movie and it wasn't bad. And
all right. Well, as a Thunderbolt fan, you were fine with it then.
Well, I don't even, I had no idea what that was about either. I mean, I know some of the characters.
They're like a new team.
Of course I have to have Rosie chiding me about Florence Pugh being my girlfriend because I like to look at her pouting in Midsummer for some strange reason, but she is. I like looking at her face. So
who doesn't? Join the club.
It's just. But Cory, what kind of weed did you smoke or eat, or what did you?
I wanted to celebrate the great Tippi Hedren and her work she does with big cats. So if you can't get this strain near you, people, you get a strain like it. But I got Tiger's Milk. Tiger's Milk, known as Tiger's Milk by Bodhi Seeds, is a powerful indica-dominant marijuana that descends from Bubba Kush and Appalachia. So just look for a good Kush. If it has the name Tiger in it, that's even better because we're celebrating Tippi. We're celebrating her work she does with the big cats and the birds, a wonderful classic film. But you're just looking for a strain of cannabis that will make you euphoric and relaxed because it is a slow burn and you just want to kind of settle in. And it is a stony movie. It looks fantastic. So I say an indica. What do you say, Bob?
Well, I went with, and I was kind of playing with fire because of the slow burn nature of it. I went with Papa and Barkley cannabis infused CBD Recover gummies. So they're kind of medical marijuana gummies. Yeah. And they're 5 milligrams CBD, 5 milligrams THC, and then 5 milligrams of CBG, which does actually have that kind of muscle relaxer effect. That, it's one of the rare times that they make a claim, and I really think CBG does that in a way that CBD doesn't even do it. So they're about relaxing. So with the slow burn, you are in danger of drifting to sleep. So I say eat just one, unless you're like Felina or something, then you'll eat like 5. But
she has
just
a high tolerance, it's true.
Yeah, eat one an hour before the movie because you don't really necessarily need to be tripping until hour 2.
Yes. Full warning ahead. You don't really get a lot of bird action until hour 2.
Yeah. It's 2 hours, solid 2 hours, or just under 2 hours. So you want the gummy to really start kicking in at the second hour. So eat it an hour before you start it. But I also recommend once the movie starts, have some tea with caffeine in it.
Beautiful advice, Bob.
Yeah, so the Papa and Barkley cannabis-infused CBG Recover Relief Gummies. This is a pear apple flavor, and I've been really just enjoying them in general, and with all the bullshit going on in this terrible world right now.
Yes.
I probably need to take a couple of them a day at different parts of the day just to get through the shit right now. So
yeah.
The Birds is now streaming on Netflix as part of their Alfred Hitchcock collection, which also includes Rear Window, Vertigo Frenzy, and Family Plot, and The Man Who Knew Too Much. It's rare for Netflix to show anything from before 1970, so we definitely want to boost the stats on these films a bit. Watch them, and then just put them on when you're not in the room, and just let them run to make it. And also, The Birds will be playing at the Alamo Drafthouse in San Francisco at noon on Saturday, July 19th, and on Monday, July 21st in San Francisco and the new Alamo Drafthouse in Mountain View, California, about 40 miles south of San Francisco. Visit drafthouse.com for info. Cory, thanks so much for being with me in these trying times.
Thank you, Bob. Shout out to the Franklins. We miss you. We love you. Go see the Birds at the Alamo Draft House and then drive about 3 hours north and go to Bodega Bay afterwards and have a whole Birds Day, you guys.
Have a bowl of clam chowder and
I just thought wouldn't it be great if the ending of the Birds was Bob Newhart wakes up next to Suzanne Plachette and it's like, oh, it's all a dream. I'm just kidding. All right.
Yeah. It's all about waking up next to Suzanne Plachette.
It is. Everything
days.
should end that way.
Yeah, everything. Talk about a happy ending. Okay, so be here next month, and Cory, I haven't run this by you yet, but
let's hear it.
Let's hear it. Be here next month when Felina's partner Sage will be joining us for horse movies.
We love horses. We love Sage. Let's do it.
Yeah, she's way into horses and horse movies. So we're gonna get her expert opinion on
her equine expert opinion.
Equine expert opinion, like I wrote copy that I can't say. Her equine expert opinion on Francis Joins the Wax, starring Francis the Talking Mule from 1954.
Not a horse. Okay, go on.
Well, it's close enough. And Fred McMurray in Smokey from 1946. Both horse movies are on YouTube. Well, 90 minutes. Yeah,
I'm
I know.
ready. I gotta go to the dispensary right now and get some Fred McMurray weed. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. So you can stick that in your pen and vape it right here on Old Movies for Young Stoners.